I'm Daniel Gross, and this is The Number. The number today is 5,000. That's the number of years that humans have been indebted to one another. That's what our guest says. Our guest is David Graeber. He's an anthropologist at Goldsmiths University in London. Also one of the, I hesitate to say leaders of the Occupy Wall Street movement, because they weren't really leaders, but...
we have millions of leaders.
There you go. And his book is Debt, the First 5,000 Years. It's now out in paperback, and it's really a fascinating anthropological / historical account of kind of how we got into the situation today where we have these international, national human debates about what to do about money that we owe one another. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure.
You say that for most of human history, most human beings have been told that they are debtors. When we got started, when we were hunters and gatherers, weren't we just trading stuff? I mean, that's what I learned.
Yeah, I know. We all learned that. And the fascinating thing is that ever since, well, the story really goes back at least to 1776, when Adam Smith sort of imagined how money must have come about. People used to say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you like 5 arrowheads for that beaver pelt, or 20 chickens for that cow. And eventually it became inconvenient, so they settled on one thing, and it turns into money. For the 200 years at least, we've been looking for somebody who actually does that, and they don't exist. In fact, people do an amazing variety of different things, but they never do that.
So how does understanding this history of debt inform how we should approach some of these issues today?
Well, I think what history shows a lot of things, but one of the things it shows most clearly is that debts are always renegotiable between equals. That goes for rich people who can be, remarkably forgiving and understanding when dealing with other rich people. Sometimes they'll play games like Goldman Sachs versus Lehman Brothers,
right,
as we all know. But when it's a serious matter, when there are common interests are at stake, they'll come through for each other. Though debts can always be renegotiated.
Right. This always happens in bankruptcy court. They go in and say, we'll give you 30 cents on the dollar, and everyone goes home.
And as we saw in 2008, like when people were really, AIG is about to collapse, they work something out. They cancel trillions of dollars worth of debt. Same thing true of, poor people lend each other money half the time. They're really just given the gift, and they don't want to admit, embarrass someone. So debts are always renegotiated between equals. It's when you have people who aren't equal, suddenly it becomes a sacred thing. And the reason for that, as far as I can make out, is that there's no more effective method of taking a relation of just sheer power and making it not only seem moral, but making it seem like it's the victim who's really to blame. And mafiosi understand this. That's why they always turn everything into a matter of debt. So conquerors, you conquer people. You say, well, you guys owe me your lives because I could have killed you and I didn't. So I'm going to expect payment for that, but I'll be a nice guy. I'll let you off the hook. All of a sudden you're the good guy, and they're running around feeling like schmoes. And that's what we see here. I mean, in 2008 it was so clear. All of the powerful people bailed each other out. Yep. And suddenly when it comes to like the small players, it's like, what, are you crazy? This is a moral obligation.
And the debt can't be charged even through bankruptcy, and we see the laws change.
And what we see now, and this is really fascinating to me, because I've been talking to some rather powerful people in Europe and elsewhere, is that people realize they've kind of got themselves in a bind. On the one hand, the moral power of debt is one of the few things propping up the system as far as they see it. They don't want to give it. They don't want to give it up. On the other hand, they know that the debt really does have to be canceled because it's completely unsustainable. So they're trying to figure out a way to forgive the debt without actually admitting that they're doing it.
And that, of course, is what is keeping the Financial Times in business, covering the never-ending Greek debt scenario. Well, David Graeber, that's all the time we have today. Thanks so much for joining us. The book is Debt, the First 5,000 Years. We're probably going to have another 5,000 years. I'm Daniel Gross, and this is The Number.